They say when you're in a dark space and you feel like you've been buried, in actuality, you've been planted. Well, I must have been planted deep as shit, because I was in the darkest space I have ever been in, and I could not figure out how to get out of it. People advised me to get more sleep, drink more water, eat less gluten, exercise, meditate, be mindful, read self-help books. Oh my God, I did not have the energy for any of that shit. And to be honest, I no longer felt capable. Or at least that's the story that was in my head. And come to find out, I'm one hell of a storyteller. I think we all are. We tell stories from the past to justify the present. We tell stories about the future to somehow prepare ourselves for shit hitting the fan. We all what if. I what if about my money, about my job. I what if about my parenting and my spouse. I will honestly admit I have even what ifed about sex while I was having sex, and y'all know that shit's not sexy. Anywho, if you're a parent, a spouse, a lazy self-helper, an addict, or just plain nosy, this podcast is for you. I'm Amy, and I am all of those things. I spent 30 years listening to other people's stories and watching them dig through and find the truth and then climb out of this darkness. We all have similar stories. And now, I'm going to share the story in my head with you. So join me every Wednesday, the story in my head. You might laugh a little, you might cry a little. I suspect you'll be able to relate. But nonetheless, it will be shameless entertainment. The Story in My Head, Wednesdays, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you hear your podcasts. They say the truth will set us free, but not until we identify the lies that hold us hostage. I'm Amy, your host for The Story in My Head, a raw, meandering, unscripted sharing of my thoughts or those of my guests, where we identify the stories, the messages that we tell ourselves that create these lies that we believe, that trap us in darkness and depression, anxiety, fear, negative thinking, self-sabotage, addiction, etc. This is my experiment of trying to rewrite the stories in my head, and I ask you to join me. Over the years, I have used and abused and experimented with a multitude of substances. Legal, illegal, prescribed, copped on the street, whatever. One in particular, I have a quite the fondness for. And literally for decades, I have struggled to end my relationship with the substance. And in my darkest space of being curled up on the couch in my pajamas and dirty teeth and fuzzy socks and heavy and sad, depressed, anxious, full of fear, all of these things all wrapped up into this one ball that I am in the fetal position. And I just can't get off the couch. I just can't get off the couch. I mean, yeah, I get off the couch to walk the dog and to make dinner and all those things. And honestly, from my dark space, all of those things, it's not like they were hard per se, but they were an irritant. It was just an irritant. Everything was an irritant. Everything was an irritant. And in this dark space, these substances became light. And it's embarrassing to admit the struggle that I have had with substances or any of the other struggles that I've had, really, because my struggles seem so big and hard and lengthy. And I'm supposed to be a professional. I was a mental health professional. You know, we refer to, they say this, I was a they. I taught classes. I was a quote-unquote professional, an authority figure, somebody that helped guide and facilitate and advise people, and curled up in a ball on the couch. You know, nobody really wants to see their counselor or therapist or whatever in that space. Because I had the thought of somebody that I had worked with seeing me in this space, thinking to myself, oh my God, the hypocrisy. They're going to be like, that woman is full of shit. And that's how my story starts. I am full of shit, and I've fucked up a lot of things, and there's a lot that I don't know, and I'm in this ball, and I I am a hypocrite, and I am an addict, and I am a divorcee, and I am human. I'm human and faulty and unskilled and unprepared and fearful and sensitive, and I'm all these things. I am all these things. But in my dark space from the couch, the only two facets or the only two relationships that I focused on were my relationships with my career that I felt at this point was a total joke, and my relationship with this substance, this love affair with this substance that when I was using, great. When I wasn't using, I was still thinking about using, which, it was 24 hours a day. And it hit me one day that this depression, this anxiety, this addiction, all of it seemed to be one and the same. What I could think of was, on the one hand, the story in my head was, Amy, you have failed so many times to end this relationship with this substance. I mean, like I can't even tell you. Countless times. And there weren't times like, oh, I've gone to rehab and, left rehab, or I've had a stint clean and now I've relapsed. There were mostly this chatter in my head of today's the day, today. Or after that happens, I will stop. After that, I will have what I need to be prepared and ready and willing and able to stop doing this particular behavior. And that day didn't come because there was something else. There was another stressor. There was another incident. There was another story in my head. Today's not a good day because it's raining. Today's not a good day because it's Thursday. I mean, the storytelling was just insurmountable ridiculousness of waiting, of distracting myself, of planning for tomorrow and spending all of my todays using and anxiety and fear of the day that it will come where I don't. And that just increased the usage and increased the fear and increased the darkness and increased the storytelling that I'm a failure. I needed something easier. I felt willing to climb out of my deep space. I felt willing to stop using unhealthy substances. I felt willing to seek out joy and happiness and a sense of purpose and a sense that I was willing. I felt 100% willing, but 0% capable. So therefore, I looked both unwilling. What people told me I looked like, they believed in me that I was capable. They would say, Amy, you are capable, therefore you must be unwilling. So it just looked as though I was unwilling to make these changes that I knew I needed to make, that I wanted to make. I looked unwilling because people saw me so capable. But the message that I could not seem to really swallow inside my own head and let out and convey is, y'all, it's not a willingness problem. It's a capable. I am not capable. I am not capable because I am a failure, as evidenced by all these past failures. And let me review them all again. And then it's the next day. I used to teach a class called Stress and Coping Skills, and I would talk about the different coping skills, basically like the different categories of coping skills and what happens when there's more stressors than there are skills to cope with it, and what happens when we empower a particular coping skill, which is what I spent years doing in regard to this particular substance. I empowered the substance to make me better, to reduce my stress, to help me cope, to calm me down. I empowered it to the point that nothing else could do it as well. Nobody else, no other experience could be as good as the use of this substance. And by the way, you can change, that's me filling in my blank. I don't know what your blank, what is your blank? What is your coping skill that you know is unhealthy? You know it is harmful to yourself or somebody else, and yet you continue to do it. I've been told that some see that as the definition of addiction itself. When we know there are negative consequences to our actions, yet we continue to act in the same manner. Addiction. So fill in your blank for whatever it is that you cling to as your life vest, as your safety device, person, thing, place, whatever it is. For me, it was a substance. This ridiculous one single tiny thing that I had turned into this massive, powerful, beastly relationship that encompassed 24 hours of my day. Literally, I could dream about it. I've dreamed about it multiple times. Oh my goodness gracious. And yet, years prior, I had helped people find recovery and understand their definition of serenity, and all that just seemed gone, just washed away by this dark, active, addictive, depressed, anxious place. And yeah, everybody and their brother that knew I was in a dark place would tell me something that they would have done, if they were in my shoes. Or what I could have done to have avoided my space. I love to hear that, because that just continues to feed my story that I knew better and I have straight fucked up. And that then turns into guilt, shame, I am unworthy. So I love it when people are like, well, you could have, whatever. Thanks, bitches. Thank you for that support. Thank you. And then the shoulds. Well, you should do this and you should do that. You should drink more water. You should exercise. You should get out more. Increase your social. You know what? Find some hobbies. There you go. Find some hobbies. Because I just want to jump up off this couch and brush my damn teeth and go out and start painting. Yeah. Did y'all not hear me that I didn't even brush my teeth? Okay. I don't have whatever it takes to brush my teeth today. I damn sure don't have what it takes to join the gym. The expectations I felt like that people had of me were just way too high. Come to find out, the expectations I had of myself were way too low. Anywho, I have zero energy. I don't want to read books. I don't like to read. I don't want to listen to podcasts. I don't know how to do that. People are like, oh, well, there's Audible. Oh, well, there's everybody had their things. And I seemed so argumentative when I kept telling reasons why I couldn't do that, or I couldn't do that, or I couldn't do that. And it was because if I did those things, then I couldn't remain in this active. I could not continue to participate in my darkness, in this active addiction, depression, anxiety, darkness, if I chose to do those other things. A wise man once told me that if you choose one thing, you are choosing against at least one other thing. I need to say that to myself again. A wise man told me that when I choose one thing, I choose against something else. So in me choosing to stay in this dark space, I was choosing against climbing out. Not to mention, as I continue to tell myself stories that create a victim in me, well, it's because of this. I can't do that because of this. And then you're not going to believe how this happened. And guess what he said to me? And she looked at me like this. And then there was that. And then I was 3. And then my gut, it's quick. Let me tell you, it's quick. And, if I am a victim And it's hard for me to even speak the truth because it sounds so offensive. And so if I tell myself stories in which I'm a victim, then I have all kinds of new justification for going out and using this substance. In hindsight, some of this is becoming clear. So if people around me want me to not use the substance, and I want to use the substance, then those people around me become an obstacle between where I am now and where I want to be, between not using and using. You have become an obstacle for me, and I need you to get the hell out of my way. So I will make sure that happens. And in doing so, I unfortunately hurt you. That became my pattern. I am not peaceful. I am not content. I am super anxious. I am depressed. I am a victim. I am pissed. I am sad. I am scared. I am in the mood to go use this substance. And in order for me to do that, I have the opportunity to use the substance openly and know that people are going to be judgmental and critical, sometimes under the guise of love and concern, sometimes under the guise of gossip and, all that. It just was going to be unpleasant, and it's going to take away from the joy that I was telling myself that I was going to get from using the substance. So the next option I have is to get you out of my way so I can use my substance by myself, free of judgment, free of guilt, free of, criticism and so forth. And now that means I need to probably piss you off to get you to back the hell up. And then I find myself using the substance alone and isolated. And then that incorporates into my story, validates my victim. Let me use again. That was my cycle. That has been my cycle for a long time. And I can do that same cycle, not just with a substance. I can do it with people, all into a relationship. It's all about relationships. I'm just talking about my relationship with the substance, but there's relationships with work. People do this with work. People do this with sex. People do this with food. People do this with people. We all have these obsessive ways of thinking. And winner, chicken dinner, I got to a place where I was obsessive so often I didn't know how to not be obsessive anymore. I had forgotten. I was habitually obsessive, habitually depressed, habitually anxious, habitually using this substance, continuing to hurt those around me to get them to back the fuck up so I could use this substance. And now I'm alone and I'm using the substance and I'm full of shame. So I'd gone through this cycle a gazillion times. Majority of it was in my head. Real to me, nonetheless. Failing to end my relationship with this substance day after day, month after month, year after year, in the back of my mind, continued to empower the story that I am incapable, I am a hypocrite, I am unworthy, And I did that with a lot of things, my parenting, my money. So I'm on the couch in a ball. Dark, heavy, depressed, fearful, struggling with the relationship that I'm having with myself, talking to myself in such a way that I would be I would go to war if anybody had ever talked to my children the way I was talking to myself. I happened to go on a little trip and played a game of Jenga. The little blocks. They start out in a tower, nice and neat, 3x3. And then slowly you pull a block out from somewhere along the tower, stick it on the top. And then your opponent pulls out a block from somewhere in the middle of the tower and sticks it on the top. And then you can just go back and forth till eventually somebody pulls out a block and the whole tower comes down and they lose. Well, from my dark space on the couch, I could see my Jenga game. After this little trip, I had bought the Jenga because I enjoyed that game. It was a simple game, something to pass the time, and I went and bought one, and I had never opened it. So I slunked off the couch and waddled over there and grabbed my Jenga game, and I was at home alone. So I decided, well, shit, I can play by myself. Like, let's see how many blocks I can move before the damn thing comes down. And this light bulb came on in my super dark head that all of these things that people have advised me to do, all these things that I have advised others to do to climb out of dark spaces, that right now seems so daunting and overwhelming and absolutely outside of my realm of possibility. It just all became clear. I needed to play a game of Jenga. I grabbed a Sharpie and I wrote on every block something about myself that I had told myself that I didn't like. I didn't like it, my addiction, my relationship with this substance. I didn't like the way I looked physically. I didn't like the way I had given up a career out of fear of failing or misguiding or misleading anybody else. I didn't like that I had failed in marriage and in business and in money and in addiction and recovery and parenting and all these other things. And so I just put the word failure on a block. And I realized, I don't know how many pieces there are in a Jenga game, but basically I wasn't super detailed. I was pretty, I just made bold statements like failure and depression and anxiety and overweight. And these are the things that I was putting on my blocks, these things about myself that I didn't like. And I had more pieces left over when I felt like I had covered everything. And this obsessive, intrusive thought came in, well, God, I got to do all the blocks. You got to have something on all the blocks. And then it hit me. I was like, damn, Amy, what are you doing? Making stuff up? Like, what are you going to do? Make stuff up? Seriously? No, we're not going to do that. No. And I just said, no. I just told myself, no. One of my favorite things is the mantra or the statement, the fact that no is a complete sentence. So I said no. I don't know why I said it that day. I don't care. I don't want to judge it. I don't want to analyze it. I said no. No, I'm not going to add more shit to my Jenga pile. Just 2. So what am I going to put on the rest of these blocks? I guess I will put on there different things that I have been advised to do and I have advised others to do to climb out of these dark spaces and to change these things that I have now written out in black and wood, Sharpie and wood, that I don't like about myself. So I started putting things on the blocks: exercise, water, sleep, dinner out, park, Jenga, walk dog. And it was interesting how quickly these things started coming to me. I started realizing that a lot of these things that I had put on these blocks were free. I didn't even have to leave my house for a lot of these things. Deep breathing, drink some water, stretch, say thank you, smile at a stranger. I ended up with so many things I could cover all 4 sides of these blocks. Walking, praying, music, church, friends. They just kept coming. Finger paint, watch a bird, plant a tree. They just kept coming. And before long, I needed more Jenga pieces. And I was a bit excited and a little shocked and like looking around a little bit like, did y'all just see what I just did? Like I felt proud of myself. And it came easy. Are you kidding me? It was easy. The hard part had already been done. The hard part was saying to myself, Amy, no. We are not going to put any more shit on these blocks. No. No. That was the hard part. Just making the decision to change what I put in the blocks. So my mind starts reeling. I need to change my story. And it's like this Jenga game. It's just one block at a time. One side at a time. We have all these constructs. We have all these stories in our head, all these messages, all this shit. You know, I like to what if. I like to run experiments. So here's the experiment. What if I put all these blocks together, my Jenga game that I have written all over, and I put all these blocks together and I stack them up like I'm going to play this game all by myself. And I just pull one block out. And I just look at one side of one block. What does it say? Water. So just for today, I'm going to drink more water. I don't have to be depressed any less. I don't have to be scared any less. I don't have to be any more social. I don't even have to brush my fucking teeth. Nope. Just today, I'm going to drink more water. I had recognized at one point that I was buried like a nut. And how apropos that the universe provides me the one Jenga tile, the one side of the one Jenga tile that particular day that says water. Because I've been trying to figure out how to climb out of this deep hole. Well, hell, if I had just planted something, what would be the first thing I'd do? I'd give it fucking water. It seems so simple, yet so miraculous, so enlightening, so incredible. Water. I don't need to look at any of my other Jenga pieces. My tower is not coming down. Just holding this one tile, this one wooden block with this one side that says water. And then all of a sudden I am flooded with all the different powers of water. Not just because of all the benefits of drinking water. I mean, Google that shit. We all know that, right? But the benefit to me of making a decision to do something to me, for me, to serve me, I had not done that in a long, long time. And the fact that it's just this one thing, oh fuck, I can do that. I can do that, right? I can drink water. And I don't need to focus on anything else. I don't need to change everything today. I don't want my tower coming down. If I pull too many blocks to work on at one time, I'm going to fall apart. That's my truth. I can only handle one block today. Maybe another day I'll handle 3. I don't know. We'll see. But today it's one block. You can handle one block. You can handle one side of one block in the course of a day. If you are planted, if you are in a dark space, consider yourself a nut and give yourself some water. I was given a book. It's a little book, which is great because I like children's books. I like it little. I like it simple. I like it to the point, which is ironic because I ramble. Anyway, basically the gist of the book is brilliant. You have water on the stove in a pot. Stove's on high. You're waiting for it to boil. It takes a few minutes. We all know. They say a watched pot never boils. Well, it does eventually. It just takes time. 200 degrees? Nope, doesn't boil. 205, 206? It's not boiling. It starts pushing 208, 209, 210 degrees. It's close, y'all. But that's not boiling. The difference between boiling and not boiling is 1 degree. Moving from 211 to 212, that is 1 degree. And y'all know I'm a nerd at heart. I love science. I believe in the laws of nature. That is just a fact that I cannot argue with. The difference between liquid water that is not boiling and water that is boiling and becoming a gas is 1 degree. That is incredible. 1 degree. One tiny block from my Jenga game. One decision to do one thing different just on one day. If you're having a hard time telling yourself no to whatever it is, tell yourself yes. Yes, today I will pick one thing that is good for me, that is healthy for me. Just one. That's the experiment. Just one thing. Just 1 degree. That's the story in my head.